When you press C, the crop tool comes out. Or you can come up here. If you hit it, then you're in crop tool. Once you're in your crop tool, if you right click, you would see original, the sizes. So this is 4x5 here. The moment you click 4x5 and you click this, you see that it changes the crop to 4x5. Right? And I'm sure this is a problem that a lot of people have when you shot 4x5 and then it's difficult to recrop the way you want. So if you hit C again, your crop tool comes out. When you are done cropping, unlike Lightroom, you can't press enter. It won't do anything. So your crop tool, it already cropped it. All you need to do is move away from your crop tool by going to another tool. So the default tool is V, which is right. If you press C, it goes back to your crop tool. Now, I know crop tool in Lightroom is R or something. It's R. Yes. Why? Can you see? Why? You want to crop, you're pressing R. How does R resemble crop? But here, R is the rotate tool. And let me look for a picture where we need the rotate tool. So if you press, you have this icon here, and this is the tool here. You can use to straighten lines. So if you have like, you didn't shoot properly, your camera angle was bent, just use this and draw a straight line on anything that is supposed to be straight. Right? So once you draw this and you leave it, it would realign the picture for you. How do we get from here, right, to here? That's what I want to do. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is like what we said yesterday, where I needed a starting point to start with, so something that was a bit neutral, and I used one of these. You can go to your base characteristics. If you can't find your base characteristics, remember, right click, add to, look for base characteristics, right? So mine is here though, and it's showing my Nikon Z6 General, which is generic, which is what I shot it with. You can then go and look for, you can use phase 1 achromatic neutral. Where is it? This one. IQ 160 achromatic neutral. You can use this, and it gives you sort of like a neutral tone to your image. So just like that, we've gone from here to here, right? It takes out a lot of the red. Like I said, it is not, you can do that by reducing saturation and by adding grains, right? Because red is made up of your, imagine magenta. So red is sort of made up of your magenta here and your orange. So if you want to take out red, you just do the opposite, right? But that's...
If you want to take out maybe another color that is not red from the picture, from this base characteristics, like which one would you use to remove like a color cast like green or yellow?
So mostly if you have that color cast, just use your color balance. Come to master here, right? And then if you have red at this side, go to the opposite of red, right? And start to add. So it takes out that color by this color, right? The stuff that that guy that I use also desaturates a lot. So it desaturates, it adds some contrast. But I'll reset this and let's use it instead. So we went from here to here. Right, I'm pressing Y. Remember, Y is to check before and after. Okay. The next thing I'll do is I just want to make her face pop a bit more. Right, so I would create a new layer. Right. So this is one way to create a new layer here by just pressing add, or you can come to this panel here you see layer, the layer tool, and then click add. It's the same thing, right? So if I add a new layer, you see here, right? So we rename this what face. Okay, so we have a face now. The next thing I want to do is pick this tool. Oh, I've forgotten the name of the tool. Let me check for the name. Okay, it's called the radial gradient mask. It's the same one, is in Lightroom as well. It's that tool that creates sort of like a gradient like this. Right, I'll just do
Where
it.
did you get the radial mask?
It's here.
Okay.
The shortcut is T. So press M and you can see where the mask is showing. That's where it's affecting. Right, so I can just make it bigger, make sure it covers our face. I can push this in a bit if I want to feather it. Can you see it's feathered like this?
Yeah.
Here like this is more, so just feather it a bit. Okay. I'll press M again. So now we have that on our face. Right. So what I want to do, I'll just increase shadows a bit. I can push my whites up a bit. Right. And then just like that, we've gone from, I'll turn off this layer and turn it back on. Right, so we've gone, obviously you can see it's spilling to outside the face. So I'll press M. Let me zoom in. And then I'll press E for eraser. And reduce the size of that thing again or increase, you understand? So I'll just say, yes, please rasterize this for me. So I can now start to erase all of this, the excess. Right, so press M again, and by the way, comma is to zoom out. If you are zoomed in completely, just press comma, it zooms out completely. Selection of the entire image. Reduce it, you can do this, you can do like anything you want to do. Okay, so if I say okay, this is the grade I want to use, let me go to my shadows. I want to add, for whatever reason, I want to do this. Say man, that guy the grade gone. Turn off this layer. And still have, you can say, it was too much, reduce the opacity of the layer. You hold down this plus button, instead of just pressing it once, hold it down, so you can see, you feel, you do that. It's more glaring. It also helps the skin look richer. Right, so you can see that's what we did there. So you can see before and after. Right, but after it does all those things, it also does something in the sense that it flattens the image a bit, so the image looks a bit duller than before. So what? It's just a bit, and then we can increase clarity to get back some of that sharpness. So we've added clarity. So if I turn on and off this layer, you can see the difference that it makes. And reduce the opacity a bit. And then when we turn off before completely and after, you can see how we've gotten from here to here. New layer again. This one I'm not going to fill it. So sorry, I'll name this one tone so that we can remember what we did there. And then here, I'll name it eyes because I want to fix the eyes. Right, so I want to whiten the eyes. Can somebody tell me how we're going to do it? Our eyes are white still, but
We use brush.
you can pick your brush, okay? Right, so just pick your brush, reduce the size a bit, press M and see where you're brushing, and then you can brush inside the eyes. One thing I'll say when you're brushing is that the tip, end of the tip here, that is you're not supposed to brush. Press E for eraser, and then you can erase all of that, right? So again, and then all I'll do now is reduce. So the first is brighter than this one from the start. So I can create another layer and say and then just right, see if you see before or after. After everything, you just hold Y and you can see that we have come a long way. I've done now, so it's affecting everything apart from that part. So these are just the ways in which you can use this. If you want to adjust anything, you can adjust. So we have done everything that for this. Right. So the next thing is to press V to go back. Edit with Adobe Photoshop. Yes. I click say export.
To the location of your choice.
Right?
Okay.
And then say content away and press OK.
Then now later we play that whereby you click
Away, yes. Working with a tight headshot, you need to use more blur. So if I'm working with like a beauty headshot, right? I shot the image like just ahead. I'll use somewhere between 14 and 16. If I'm working with an image like this, from like the head to just the laps a bit, 3/4, I'll use anything between 6 and 9. If I'm working with a full-length picture, from head to toe, right? That's not a lot of details because by the time you zoom into the face, you don't have that much. That blur is what determines how much your frequency separation is separating your image into colors on one layer, textures on the other layer. The amount of blur you use is what determines how much information to one part or the other. I'll come to this and I'll pick my mixer brush tool and then I'll start brushing. That it is damaging texture.
Sorry, let me see the 24, 23, 20.
So I'll come to the settings of these guys. Leave your load and your mix don't really matter. It's your wet and your flow that really matters, right? midtones rather will now fall somewhere between your highlights here, all of these areas, all these areas, here, here, right? So your midtones will take over most of these areas, right? And then your shadows would be in the outer edges, right? Under the neck, sometimes under the nose. And I'm just going to work on the edges here, right? So where this midtones interact with the shadow, I'm just going to work on that edge a bit and just brush it out. Now, in this image, you can see because of the shape of our head, that some of this shadow comes into here. I can brush and brush it out if I want to create like a sort of like an even round highlights around the head. You don't have to do that, but some places after you brush them, you see that they become a bit more coarse. You can just go back to your high layer, use your clone stamp at like 20%, and then just soften it a bit. Right, so I'll come back to my bead. So once you create a layer mask, it means that you want to hide part of what you did there. But this time I'll use like a small number because I'm not worried about retaining texture on outfits. Okay, so we've done that. We can delete the check layer. You can flatten the image, press Command S to save. Once you press Command S to save to your Capture One. Right, so this is the one I did at home. And this go to select and go to subject. So for an image like this, brightness and contrast, right? So it will create a mask of my brightness and contrast, and I can reduce right, I can reduce the brightness on the back just like that. Alright, press M again, improve the shadows, right? And then increase saturation. So that adds a pop to our eyes. Right, so I feel like it's too much in this one. Right, so M, eraser, but I'll reduce the opacity of my eraser so that I don't want to erase everything. I just want to soften it up a bit. When you want to add, the first thing you want to do is select. Press W and go to my quick selection tool, and that selects that part. I'll hold shifts. For instance, I didn't work for here. It worked for here. I'll hold alt, I'll delete some of this. Okay, and delete some of this. So is to look for the texture that you want to use. I have a bunch of textures that I downloaded. I'll send you guys the websites where you can download textures from. The background has texture. And press OK.
On the layer mask, right?
The layer, it should be on its own.
Yeah.
Now you can now drag the layer mask to it. Mask that says hide anything that is not the background.
Okay.
So for me, what I do is that I'll change the blending mode.
Okay.
I change the blending mode. Normally, overlay always works, but for this image, it won't work. So, I like what luminosity is doing because it's creating an interesting thing. Now, the only thing I would now do now is that I don't like the way it's so sharp on this the fabric. So I would my brush back. 20% flow and opacity. Pick a white brush. Right? So I'll brush even into the fabric to kind of show that from inside the fabric we can see Yes, I want to create like a
Cloudy,
dreamy look.
dreamy look.
So if you want to create a dreamy look, it's easy. Press go to blur, use Gaussian blur. Right. So just use a high number, like 50 something. It doesn't work for all images. It works for images that have mostly like a backlight or something that is adding to the frame. And you say okay. So once you do that, now change the blending mode to screen.
Screen.
Yeah. So it creates this look for you.
Okay.
So once it creates that look, you can now create a layer mask, and then you can press break and reduce it on the face. Sorry, a black brush. Right, you can clean it where you want to clean it. If you don't want it to be everywhere, are the ones that superimpose texture on a backdrop that is already there. So many times, and I know that overlay or soft light will always work. Right, so let me try and use the lower part that doesn't have as much. If I was going to do this image, this is what I would do. If I was going to do it though, I would do something like this. Right, because I don't want it to look too distracting. Something like this. If I was the one that was going to do, if I was going to do it, because I didn't want it to. Brighten the leg a bit. So people brush and then it's not a bad idea, but I feel like just be careful with the edges because the edges is where the problem is. Also don't like overdo it because sometimes the leg now start looking funny. even those adjustment layers that we worked on, you know, once you've done one where we put a preset like this, you can do another one on top again. You can do 20. You can even try.
Can you copy it out from your system?
So yes, you can.